Catherine, I want to go to you first on Anzac Day with your military background. And you've often spoken at Anzac Day events. You wrote a beautiful article recently about a speech I think you gave last year, an event in Queensland. Just tell us about what you say at an Anzac Day event and how you're going to deal with Anzac Day tomorrow.
Look, last year was an absolute privilege. Alan Jones had invited me to attend what I thought was a little gathering in his hometown of Ackland, and it was enormous. People came from all over Australia because of Jonesy's drawing power on his syndicated radio network. I was completely stunned. A little hamlet outside my hometown of Toowoomba, and one of the most beautiful days I've ever had. You know, a big crowd of people gathered there, much more substantial a crowd than I was anticipating, but it had everything that you love about Australia. There were people who were part of the Adani convoy with rainbow flags on their four-wheel drives, and these hardcore Afghan and Vietnam vets from motorcycle gangs from Townsville and Bathurst. Now, if you put them within a tennis court-sized area of one another on any other day of the year, there'd have been a blue. Yes. And they embraced and were Australians together, and that's the power of the day. So it had nothing to do with what I said. It just is the innate power of the day. But just quickly, I want to send a shout-out to Doug Hazelwood, a very dear friend who's struggled with his health a bit in recent days, a Vietnam veteran of long tan, and the Australian tomorrow's carrying both my address, my remarks are online recorded, and they're doing a big feature on Doug and a colleague of his, John Burns, who was involved in the two bloodiest battles the Australians fought in Vietnam, the battles of Long Tan and Coral Balmoral. And gunners from the field regiment that fired the Danger Close mission. I was to join them in Warrnambool had the social distancing border closures not occurred, and I'm absolutely gutted that I'm not in Warrnambool tonight with those guys. They're just dear friends. I think the world of them, and I pre-recorded some messages for two small country towns this year, and they'll be available to readers of the Australian tomorrow. But I was feeling quite emotional during the break hearing Greg talk about Port Macquarie. If any of those folks want to tune into Warrnambool, it's a cracking service. They've done a great job pulling it together.
Great stuff, Catherine, and what a beautiful part of the world Warrnambool is too. Nicholas, are you going to set the alarm and get up before dawn with the kids out on the footpath?
Yeah, absolutely. Go down to the front gate, as I think is being proposed, and also just talking about it here at home today. We're going to make Anzac cookies tomorrow as well with the kids, just to have a bit of do something fun, but also a way of commemorating a very, very important part of the Australian story. Yeah,
it's a great idea. The Anzac Day cookies. It's just the Anzac cookies. It's just another way to sort of embed the tradition, I suppose. My 8-year-old this morning asked me what Anzac Day really commemorated, and I thought my answer was wholly inferior. And I need to do better when I get home tonight. But I think what we just heard from Greg Laird in Port Macquarie, Nicholas, was quite insightful. That is, it's going to be quite unifying. We're doing this. This is a way around the fact we can't get together. But if everybody gets out there at the front of their houses, there's going to be quite a sense of unity about it.
Yeah, I sense that there's some real momentum building behind that idea. I mean, Anzac Day is Australia's most solemn day. I actually think it's probably the most important day on our calendar of national holidays. And it'll be a real wrench for many Australians that we can't get together in large numbers. And so at least in this way, we can be together while being in isolation. My cousin is a brigadier in the Australian Army, and he actually does the broadcast here in Melbourne for the parade. So I'll give him a call tomorrow as well, because he won't be working. He'll be at home, and at least I can have a chat with him.
Yeah, it's there's an amazing historical echo down the century here, Catherine, that Scott Morrison referred to today, and that is 100 years ago, celebrating or commemorating Anzac Day, just after the First World War, the country was experiencing the Spanish flu then.
Yeah, that had occurred to me as well, that the pandemic apparently did emanate from the trenches originally as well. So you just got to marvel at the resilience of that generation, having fought the war coming back to that pandemic. And then many of those people lived through the Great Depression as well. And not an insignificant number of World War I. First AIF veterans ended up serving in the Second World War in more senior roles. So they had pretty demanding lives, really, and it is good to give us that sense of perspective about the challenges we're facing. And I'm not diminishing for a moment the fact that there's a real threat to our well-being, but we've certainly got a light, a beacon in the darkness to remind us of what Australians are capable of when we tap the deepest well springs of our national resilience and identity. So I hope tomorrow's every bit as good as Greg said from Port Macquarie. And Nicholas, if I eat one of your Anzac biscuits, I reckon I'll apply for another gong, mate. You make one of those and I eat it, I'll be queuing up for another medal, I suspect.
I think COVID-19 does put some of these historical events into perspective. And here we are, what have there been, 65 deaths so far in Australia from COVID-19. Well, the Spanish flu in 1919, it was 12,500 deaths. And that, of course, came after the First World War, which was 65,000 deaths. We're talking about a country of about 4 million at the time. So 64 deaths out of a population of 25 million.
Yep.
I
think we're talking
90,000 out of a country, out of a population of 4 million. They really got hit so hard.
Yeah, 78 at the moment, but your point is well made.